Goddess steps into marriage, giving up her job, just like the 7 fairies stripping off their robes by the lake. Without the fairy attire, she stands alone in the middle of the river, soaked, unable to fly and unable to use her magic. She can only patiently wait for someone else to redeem her. As Evelyn opened her eyes in the morning, her right eyelid twitched uncontrollably. She closed her eyes, pressing down on it hard. The twitching stopped, but her heart continued to drum anxiously. From childhood to adulthood, whenever an important day arrived, something would inevitably go wrong. Even on her wedding day, the hotel restroom broke down, trapping her inside and causing her to miss the auspicious moment. Today is her daughter Aria's first day of elementary school. She had insomnia last night, rehearsing the day's actions in her mind several times, hoping for a flawless execution. But she forgot about Dylan, the unpredictable factor. Aria shares Evelyn's last name, lives in Evelyn's house, and calls Evelyn's parents grandma and grandpa. People unfamiliar with the situation don't know whose child Aria really is. Dylan often has this feeling too. After years of marriage, the passion has faded, but Dylan is particularly concerned about this matter. However, his concern is inconsequential in this household. Evelyn, come and see, what is this? Am I dying? Dylan spent the entire morning in the bathroom. When he called, Evelyn, suppressing her nausea, looked into the toilet. There were bloodstains, not many. But time was of the essence, and it was not the time to worry about such things. She patted Dylan on the shoulder, reassuring him that everything was fine, urging him to wake their daughter. Still talking about our daughter, I might be dying. Dylan started throwing a tantrum. Evelyn glanced at the time and felt speechless. According to the plan, at this moment, she should have cooked the egg pancake, served hot milk, and only awaited her daughter's arrival to eat. But now, the eggs were not in the pan, and the milk was still in the refrigerator. Evelyn couldn't handle it in one breath, so she gave up the struggle, returning to the kitchen. The range had seen better days. Its creaking sound, like a sigh, was oddly fitting for the occasion. Dylan sulked, realizing he had no fun, and decided to watch over their daughter in her room. Despite the chaos, they managed to leave the house within the planned time. Being late on the first day of school is a big taboo, and Evelyn must leave a good impression on the teacher. What you fear is what you get. Rain poured continuously for 3 days. As Evelyn drove out of the parking lot, it turned into a torrential downpour, causing traffic jams on the road. In response to the call to enroll children in nearby schools, 3 schools were packed along the way from Evelyn's home to the elementary school. The blaring horns made Evelyn's heart hang high. Aria sat in the back seat, playing on her iPad, looking relaxed. Restlessness filled the air like moisture on the window, swirling around Evelyn. She couldn't help but educate her daughter, Aria, behave well at school. Sit up straight in class, don't daydream. I know. Aria's indifferent response and the sound effects of her game came from behind. Eat more for lunch. You're at the age of growing. Also, take a break during class to protect your eyes. Do you hear me? Aria seemed to let Evelyn's words go in one ear and out the other. The words Evelyn spoke dissipated in the air, leaving her frustrated. When she reached her limit, she snapped, "Enough playing, give it to me." Evelyn got angry, successfully confiscating the iPad, which felt hot to the touch. Fortunately, traffic police arrived to maintain order, and the traffic started moving. Passing by the nursery school with a mournful atmosphere, Evelyn managed to snag a parking spot and rushed Aria to school. The welcome area was empty, with only 2 teachers receiving late parents, including Aria's homeroom teacher, Clara. Evelyn had seen her during the preschool mobilization meeting. "Hello, Teacher Clara." Good morning." Clara smiled at Aria and said, "Go to the classroom, the teacher is waiting for you." After Aria left, Clara instantly became serious. Parents should pay attention to cultivating their children's sense of time and not be late. Knowing she was in the wrong, Evelyn repeatedly apologized. Clara didn't say anything more. Evelyn carefully bid farewell, returned to her car, and let out a long sigh. The first day of school nearly took half of her life. Evelyn rushed to the company, intending to take it easy for a while. The enticing aroma of food from the neighboring workstation made her stomach growl. "Want some?" Her colleague, a post-90s returnee with clear and bottomless eyes, never seemed to know the meaning of the word worry. Evelyn waved her hand, claiming to be on a diet. "You're not fat, sis." Evelyn coldly chuckled. "Those who are not fat are called beautiful, those who are a bit fat are called sis, and if you gain more weight, they'll call you that other person, pretending I don't know?" "Oh, Evelyn, you're here?" Their leader, Luke, arrived late, squeezing through the crowded workstations with his plump belly, creating a path. Yeah, I rushed here, nonstop, to ensure work won't be delayed. Evelyn smiled, showing loyalty. Is that so? After exchanging greetings, Luke stood aside, glancing at the bun in the post-90s colleague's hand. Evelyn nearly laughed out loud. Without asking, Luke helped himself. Being a seasoned professional in the workplace, Evelyn smoothly continued her performance. Luke unceremoniously took the bun, and Evelyn seized the opportunity to suggest, "Boss, how about this? I'll leave a bit later in the afternoon, and you can count today as my day off?" Luke neither agreed nor disagreed. After a few seconds, he swallowed the dumpling, then extended his hand, gesturing in the air. Understanding the signal, Evelyn handed him a tissue, and it flowed seamlessly. The post-90s colleague watched in astonishment. Satisfied, Luke nodded. "All right, let little Fong know. Tell her I approved it." "Sure thing. Take care, boss." As Luke entered his office and closed the door, Evelyn's expression instantly returned to normal. This whole operation left the post-90s colleague dumbfounded, thinking she must protect the several sets of houses at home, and not descend into becoming a workplace bootlicker. As an old-timer in the company, Evelyn's marriage, childbirth, and house purchase were all under the watchful eyes of her leader. Someone once said that middle-aged people in the workplace with children and housing loans are the most suitable targets for exploitation. As long as they are not crushed, they will continue to climb up. Whether this makes sense or not, Luke clearly took it to heart. Knowing she had tremendous pressure and wouldn't easily resign, Evelyn's workload inevitably increased during busy seasons. After a morning meeting, in the afternoon, she was tasked with preparing a detailed report. The time given was even less than the time Luke spent on meaningless talk. When she asked for product information, the sales department had no clue. Great, overtime again. Evelyn called Dylan, asking him to pick up Aria after work. Dylan had just come out of the hospital, holding a diagnosis, nothing serious, just hemorrhoids. Although he didn't receive a word of concern, despite his dissatisfaction, he agreed to Evelyn's request. With Dylan's parents in poor health and Evelyn's parents long gone, the two, despite mutual disdain, couldn't do without each other on the parenting journey. The information finally arrived, and Evelyn started working. When stuck, Evelyn glanced at the class group chat. Seeing that the teacher hadn't contacted her there, she redirected her focus to work. The new product, made by some seasoned professional, lacked highlights, neither good nor bad. It might be challenging for a newcomer, but for someone like Evelyn, it was just right. As long as she avoided forbidden words, compared products under 100 yuan to those over 1,000, and exaggerated appropriately, the leader would think you were on the right track. After finishing, she sent the new details to Luke's email, reported on WeChat, and prepared to leave work. "Evelyn, your pain points aren't deep enough. What are girls most afraid of? Aging. Our product. Boss, our product doesn't have that effect." Luke was especially eager to teach today, blabbering on incessantly. After listening, Evelyn reminded him, "Not there?" Luke fumbled through a pile of messy things, couldn't understand the ingredients, couldn't show it, tossed it aside, and said, "Think about it again. Submitting something like this will be hard for me to explain." Evelyn's silence was deafening. Did Luke mean for her to cook up a feast using poop? Well, it will have to be tomorrow. Evelyn glanced outside, it was already dark. She only cared about how Aria's day at school went now. Solving the human aging problem with a 59 yuan face wash that comes with a box of masks doesn't interest her. After all, climbing higher in this job only leads to becoming like Luke, but Aria is different, she has endless possibilities. Okay, then, tomorrow? Luke imitated the tone of a big boss, trying to make everyone unhappy if he wasn't satisfied. Unfortunately, Evelyn wasn't buying it. Regardless of whether Luke was sincere or not, after hearing his words, she stopped performing diligence and hurried home. Luke watched Evelyn's rapidly disappearing figure, somewhat suspecting that the morning Evelyn who took everything he said at face value had been replaced. Oh well, he should also clock out now. Dylan and their daughter Aria were already at home. Upon seeing Evelyn's return, Aria sprinted over and hugged her tightly. Smelling the child scent reminiscent of baby birds beneath her nose, Evelyn asked if Aria had sweated today. "Yeah, we had a PE class." "How did you know?" Aria replied. "It's a secret." Evelyn answered playfully. Aria persisted, bringing her head close for a kiss. Evelyn pecked her on the head, and Aria giggled. The exhaustion accumulated from work instantly dissipated. Dinner was served, and Dylan had prepared 2 dishes and a soup, with stuffed winter melon being his first attempt. It seemed Dylan had learned a new recipe at some point. "How does it taste?" he asked. "Not bad." Evelyn's response eased Dylan's worries. After dinner, Evelyn took a shower, and the chaotic day seemed to improve slightly. At this moment, Clara called about school matters, asking if Evelyn wanted to join the parent committee. "I don't plan to join," Evelyn firmly replied. She was too busy, every minute was precious to her. She couldn't spare time to be on the parent committee. "I'm still considering." "If only I had your strong determination," Clara hesitated, her concerns mostly revolving around having too much time, which made her feel guilty about not devoting more to her daughter. "Don't join. Wait until Ruby's school stabilizes, then find a job." Going to work was Evelyn's persistent advice to her good friend. In her view, serving a boss might be challenging, but it was still earning a living based on skills, much easier than serving a husband. Moreover, those parent committees were obviously exploiting parents as free labor. Instead of doing that, why not focus on their children's studies? "Well, it's been 6 or 7 years since I worked." Clara didn't continue her words, but those who understood got the message. In modern society, industries evolve rapidly, with new terms emerging every month. Being unemployed for 6 years meant losing all skills. Her concerns were genuine, and Evelyn couldn't force her to change her mind. The conversation shifted back. "All right, it's your decision. As for the parent committee, my opinion is it's optional. If you find staying at home boring, you can give it a try." After a moment of silence, Clara said Ruby called her, quickly ending the conversation. In Aria's class group, there was still no mention of the parent committee. Evelyn didn't take it seriously at all. Speaking without thinking, she didn't realize which statement might have made Clara uncomfortable. Aria watched TV for a while, saying she was tired and wanted to go to sleep. In the living room, only Evelyn and Dylan remained. Dylan took out the medical report and handed it to Evelyn. Initially puzzled, when she read the words on it, she burst into laughter. She knew men were often dramatic, but she hadn't expected Dylan to be this dramatic. He had rushed to the emergency room on the same day he got scared. The doctor's diagnosis matched her judgment, it was hemorrhoids. Dylan, irritated by her laughter, shook off her hand and went to the bedroom. The living room became quiet. Evelyn laughed rather monotonously, hiding her smile. Silence and darkness suddenly enveloped the room. The complex and tangled day flashed through Evelyn's mind, and her thoughts lingered on the scene at the school gate in the early morning. Even before going to sleep, Evelyn pondered whether being a few minutes late could affect Aria's image in the teacher's eyes. The next day, Dylan seemed to have learned his lesson. The first thing he did after getting up was to call their daughter to wake up. Aria, however, was slow to realize that elementary school wasn't as leisurely as she had imagined. She resisted every step of the morning routine, from getting dressed to washing up, testing Evelyn's patience. As Aria moved at a snail's pace, Evelyn's frustration grew. The final straw was when Evelyn slammed a bowl of millet porridge onto the table with a loud clang, her face growing longer and more serious. Aria looked up, sensing her mother's anger. Her expression changed, and tears, as big as soybeans, rolled down her cheeks. She stopped eating and just sat there crying. "Why are you crying?" Evelyn asked. Aria remained silent, just crying. The anxiety from the previous day about being late resurfaced in Evelyn. She suddenly became irritable. "Crying, crying, crying, that's all you know how to do. I haven't even said anything yet." "Mom, I don't want to go to school," Aria said. "I don't want to go to work either." "What did I say? I warn you, you were already late yesterday. If you're late again today, what will the teacher think of you?" "Hey, let me take a look." Which little beauty turned into a sad kitty? Dylan diverted his attention from the phone screen and intervened. Although tears still stained Aria's face, she stopped crying. "All right, Mom is doing this for your own good. Let's go wash our faces and have breakfast. Look at this porridge, it must be made by a magical mom. It looks so delicious, and there's even a salted duck egg, such a thoughtful purchase." Dylan exaggerated his performance, trying to please both of them with one sentence, and it worked. Evelyn glanced at Dylan, feeling that he seemed different in some way. However, she couldn't pinpoint exactly what had changed. Watching Dylan's continued gentle attitude toward their daughter, Evelyn shook her head, thinking that perhaps it was because she had been too tired lately, leading to her overthinking everything. After dropping off Aria, Evelyn sent a message to Clara, expressing how she was infuriated in the morning and that she needed to buy some herbal medicine to calm herself down after work. After waiting for a while, the traffic light turned green, but Clara hadn't responded yet. Most jobs in the world are unremarkable, but the level of frustration with leaders varies. After revising the details page 5 times, Luke chose the first version. The opportunity to scold Luke was given to the designer, and Evelyn temporarily breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, she had time to open the class group and take a look. To her surprise, the group was filled with various matters. Some parents mentioned that their children wore jackets and hoped the teacher would remind them to take them off if it's too hot. Someone else saw shrimp in the lunch and insisted that their child couldn't eat shrimp. There was even a question about why their child was sitting in the last row. The messages were overwhelming, and as Evelyn scrolled through, she didn't see any replies from the teacher. Some enthusiastic parents stepped up to maintain order, saying this was an information group, and trivial matters shouldn't disturb the teacher. They also urged others to trust their children and discuss personal matters privately. No one replied to her, and Evelyn felt a bit embarrassed for her hasty remarks. Clara finally replied to her message, saying she didn't plan to join the parent committee and was looking for a job in a few days. In just one day, Clara made up her mind, and Evelyn knew something must have happened. She didn't ask, and Clara didn't say. It was one of the unspoken agreements between adults. In the evening, the class group became active again. Aria's teacher announced the formation of the parent committee and the opportunity for parents to win the first star for their child and gain extra points in the annual outstanding student selection. After a brief silence, parents started signing up. In just half an hour, half of the students' parents successfully joined the committee. Initially, Evelyn calmly checked the information of other parents. However, as the sign-ups increased, she felt a growing sense of urgency. When more than half of the class made a choice, those who hadn't joined became outliers. Before school started, Evelyn had heard that children with parent committee connections would receive special attention. Now, with more and more participants, she feared that children without this connection might miss out on that special attention. Parental concerns were now transformed into a sense of gain and loss. Just as Evelyn hesitated, the teacher announced that the parent committee members had been determined, mentioning a few parents and reminding them to ask for stars from the teacher the next day. Evelyn missed the opportunity. At first, she felt relieved, but then a sense of loss washed over her. She remembered a card game she played in her childhood called The Climbers. It was a race to see who could play all their cards first. Would those who got the parent committee ticket be like those who held the Joker card, destined to win? The starting gun had already fired, and others had taken the first step. Instead of moving forward, she was still standing there, counting gains and losses. Dylan had become busy lately. He said there was a competition for a managerial position in the company, and the leader gave him a seat. He wasn't easy before, having to follow the leader's instructions at work and entertaining clients after work. Now, he also had to prepare presentations and make PPTs. Sometimes he would come home still mumbling words. Evelyn mostly went along with him, using this matter to argue when she was in a bad mood, saying he didn't wash the dishes properly or didn't clean the house well. If you can't sweep your own house clean, how can you sweep the world? Wasn't it too late to start working hard after turning 30? Evelyn didn't know, and when she said these words, there was a slight smile on her lips, carrying the biting eloquence typical of urban native girls. In Dylan's words, "It's annoying. You just don't like me. Evelyn, do you have a heart? How have I treated you all these years? Do you only know how to cherish me when you lose me?" Dylan concluded that Evelyn was speaking through gritted teeth. Evelyn looked at Dylan's bright and hardworking figure in the moonlight, and smiled. The default foundation of first-grade students is considered a common issue in modern education. Once on the right track, the learning progress is rapid, and describing it as making strides is not an exaggeration. Evelyn only realized that the affordable transitional program she enrolled Aria in during the summer was somewhat inadequate. Subsequently, both mother and daughter rushed through their studies each day, one after school and the other after work. Often in a hurry, the tension between them escalated, leading to frustration. In such moments, Dylan would take over, initiating a new round of learning. Aria, being a child, eventually grew fearful of the nightly study sessions after the initial excitement wore off. Evelyn changed her strategy, with one parent playing the good cop while the other played the bad cop, coaxing her to study. At the end of September, the first wave of exams arrived, covering Chinese, mathematics, English, and even physical education. The next day, the results came in, 3 satisfactory grades and 1 excellent. There were no rankings, but specific improvement plans were provided on the exam papers. The Chinese teacher suggested Aria focus more on memorization, while for mathematics and English, she was advised to be more attentive. Evelyn thought it was decent progress, receiving some returns for their efforts. However, Dylan came in and poured cold water on her enthusiasm. Think about when you were in school, terms like carelessness and negligence were just polite expressions. If you can learn something, fine, but there's no cure for carelessness. Dylan's words made sense. With only a few questions on the test, making such mistakes indicated a lack of solid foundation. Evelyn, who didn't dare to think about it, found herself facing the reality, as Aria, who had been happily practicing mental arithmetic, stopped and burst into tears upon hearing Dylan's less than pleasant remarks. Starting from September, e-commerce professionals entered a nightmare-like second half of the year. Evelyn found herself aging rapidly each day, living under Luke's pressure as if one day equaled a whole year. Just as she thought things were finally going smoothly, the family atmosphere took a sharp turn, leaving her with aching mammary glands due to stress. Feeling displeased, Evelyn adopted a silent treatment, freezing her expressions. Dylan, who didn't think he did anything wrong, assumed the role of the authoritative parent, lecturing Aria on the importance of handling both praise and criticism. Today, Dylan seemed to be possessed, feeling increasingly righteous about adopting a stern fatherly demeanor. As Aria's cries became uncontrollable, Evelyn decided to ignore everything, retreated into the bedroom, and closed the door. With Evelyn gone, the most crucial spectator missing, father and daughter decided to call a truce, displaying mutual affection and respect. As the night deepened, Evelyn tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Her mind was in turmoil. Aria entered kindergarten at 3 and started primary school at 6. Despite having plenty of time to prepare, Evelyn still couldn't confidently say that they were ready. Staring into the midnight hours, some mothers in the Tiger Moms group shared new rounds of study materials. The group's administrator actively engaged the participants, simultaneously promoting part-time sales of learning supplies. Parents of academic achievers showed off their children's progress in 3 updates a day. Evelyn, being more of a passive participant, oscillated between anxiety and embracing the laid-back attitude. At this moment, she was uncertain whether it was the 1 terabyte of study materials in the group or Aria's sad face upon entering school that troubled her more. Fortunately, Dylan was losing sleep over the same concerns. After 11 years of marriage, despite numerous disagreements and irreconcilable conflicts in their lives, when it came to Aria's education, they would undoubtedly stand together. After all, 12 years later, when Aria faced the fierce competition of the college entrance examination, there would be no one else in the world who would wish for her victory as fervently as they did. In the darkness, the two held hands, and no words were spoken. The night passed in this way. On the weekend, Clara stormed in with Ruby in tow, wearing a furious expression. "What's wrong?" Faced with the question, Clara didn't immediately answer. She squinted her eyes, noticing Dylan sitting nearby. Evelyn quickly signaled Dylan to take the 2 kids downstairs to play for a while, and Dylan, delighted, readily agreed. "Look at you, Dylan, quite considerate." Clara, angered and finding fault with everyone, targeted Dylan, becoming an unintended target of her frustration. "The meeting between queens, I shall retreat 3 steps." Dylan, unaffected by her unreasonable behavior, thought of it as being scratched by a stray cat. "Humph, acting cute when you get an advantage." Clara's anger seemed substantial, and Dylan's voluntary surrender couldn't escape her wrath. Dylan continued to smile, and Evelyn, seemingly casually, glanced at him, fearing Clara would exhaust his good temper, hastily shifting the topic. "Don't mind him. If your Dominic isn't behaving, how have you managed to put up with him for so long? If he doesn't behave, then just don't put up with it." Clara's anger was clearly directed at Dominic, exploding instantly. Evelyn poured her a glass of water, pressed her onto the sofa, and sat beside her. "Spill it. What did Dominic do to upset you again?" "I wanted to go to work, and Dominic actually secretly signed me up for the parent committee. The teacher contacted me last night, asking me to purchase things, and I only found out then. It went on for so long, busy until midnight." What's going on with your Dominic? What's he thinking?" Evelyn was puzzled, her face showing confusion. "What's he thinking?" "Sacrificing the car for the handsome guy. I'm the car, and his daughter is the handsome guy. I play the role of an ox at home and have to run around at school, just to save face for his daughter. I must have committed too many sins in my past life, falling into the realm of beasts." Whenever Clara mentioned this matter, she got angry. At this moment, she even vented her frustration on Ruby. "Come on, don't exaggerate." Evelyn patted Clara's shoulder to help her calm down. "Exaggerate? After so many years, just when I finally waited for Ruby to enter primary school, thinking I finally broke free, who knew he'd pull such a stunt?" Clara spoke with a touch of sadness, shedding a few tears. Evelyn immediately opened her phone and took a picture. "Send it to me later." Clara mumbled. "Sure, let Dominic see. Is he really bullying his wife like this?" Exactly. Someone was on her side, and Clara's mood improved slightly. In fact, what angered her was not about the parent committee, she was contemplating whether to sign up for Ruby's sake. What made her mad was that Dominic didn't take her seriously, especially regarding her career plans. Dominic even asked her, "How much money can you make by working? It's better to serve the school honestly. It can help your daughter earn some face. Look at this, the face of a man." When he pursued her back then, he called her a goddess, saying he loved the way she worked. When the goddess entered marriage and gave up her job, it was like a celestial maiden stripping off her clothes by the lake. Without the celestial maiden's robe, she stood alone in the middle of the river, unable to fly or display any magical powers, just waiting for someone to redeem her. Later, when the goddess wanted to work, it became an unreasonable demand. Not all celestial maidens had the Queen Mother of the West as a backer, creating a Milky Way to separate her from a world beneath her. Dominic targeted Clara because he knew she couldn't do anything about it, acting so unscrupulously. In marriage, yielding step by step was Clara's dilemma, and the predicament of most full-time moms. Dylan took the two girls to Pizza Hut for pizza, asking Evelyn if she wanted anything packed to bring back. Evelyn checked with Clara, instructing him to bring both pizza and pasta. "Your Dylan is really nice. Too bad he didn't hear you say that. I mean it seriously." Seriously. After a moment of contemplation, Evelyn said something serious herself. "Whether my life is good or not doesn't depend on Dylan's pizza and pasta. Whether your life is good or not doesn't depend on whether Dominic will say a few irritating things to you, giving you a hard time. For people like us, from childhood to adulthood, we've walked the same conventional path. Unless there's some major upheaval, this is how our lives will be. Are you suggesting I should just accept it? No, what I mean is, since this is how our lives are going to be, why not take this time to think about what you really want? In middle age, good friends are no longer the ones who skip class with you, fight with you, and accompany you to and from school. True friends are more like psychological counselors than doctors." What Evelyn could do was not to angrily persuade Clara to divorce but to help Clara unravel the layers, making her understand the pros and cons and see the truth about marriage. The truth about marriage? Evelyn shook her head, a thought flashing through her mind. Is the truth she believed in really the truth? "I want to work, but I also don't want to give up on Ruby. You know, the first grade of primary school is a crucial time for laying foundations, and I..." Alright, watch fewer short videos." Knowing Clara's habits, Evelyn interrupted her, saying, "One year it's emphasized that the first grade is crucial, another year it's said that the second grade is the most important, and there are claims that the third and fourth grades are watershed moments. If you take it too seriously, you'll exhaust yourself. Clara, ask yourself this. When Ruby grows up and understands things, if she asks you why you didn't go to work, how will you explain it to her? Will you say it's because you chose to stay at home full-time for her, or will you say it's because of Dominic's opposition? Either way, it will make her feel that her efforts are meaningless." Evelyn's words provided Clara with a new perspective. She had never thought about how Ruby would perceive her. Silence lingered between these friends who had known each other for more than a decade. Suddenly, Clara felt unable to face Evelyn's questioning and made an excuse to leave. Adult discussions don't always have to have a conclusion. In these years, Clara saw wrinkles crawling all over her face. The wrinkles on her face were also the wrinkles in her heart. Clara understood that more than saying she couldn't stand Dominic, it was more accurate to say she couldn't stand her own lack of achievements as she aged. This feeling became especially strong since Ruby entered primary school. She often recalled her younger self, speaking under the national flag as the only female flag bearer, attracting the envy of others. Every once in a while, there would be student representatives giving speeches, and she would wear a white outfit with a red scarf and go on stage. In her essays, her dream was to become a doctor, a scientist, or a teacher. But growing up, all she wanted was to step out of this family, take a few steps in society, and why was it so difficult? She always thought she still had a chance. Only when she turned back did she realize that the torrent of fate carried people to different crossroads without asking for their opinions. Before, she could console herself that there was still room for life to turn around. In her 30s, she should have woken up from her dream long ago. Evelyn left the company when it was already dark outside. She had enrolled Aria in the after-school care program until 7 o'clock, but now the clock pointed to 8 o'clock, and the after-school care teacher had reminded her 3 or 4 times. After much persuasion, promising to continue Aria's classes next semester, Evelyn finally managed to calm down the impatient teacher. The teacher was anxious, and Evelyn was even more anxious. A new director had been parachuted into the company, putting Luke's position in jeopardy. Luke was irritating enough, but the new director was even more annoying. He immediately set KPIs and enforced strict attendance with the administrative card. Only now did Evelyn understand that Luke's annoyance was like a buzzing fly around you, mostly just irritating you. In contrast, the new director was like a knife cutting into flesh, and what he cut off was real money. The new director, Joseph, had the accent of a big city person and looked down on everyone. Talking to him made Evelyn so angry that she would open the job recruitment website afterward. She unintentionally glanced at her colleagues' computers and saw a small window in the lower left corner, also a job recruitment website. Well, when you find someone unbearable, heaven will send someone else to let you know that the previous annoyance was just a prelude. The main show was just beginning. Everyone in the company was on the verge of collapse. 2 kids under her care left in succession, leaving a mess behind. Every day when she returned home, Evelyn was so tired that she just wanted to check her phone, giving her highly active brain a break. But the school didn't agree. Family-school collaboration brought tasks outside of the classroom, such as weekly reading, outdoor activities twice a week, checking in at famous museums, and writing reflections on them. All of these required photo documentation. Evelyn's to-do list was densely packed, with no end to her work. Her responsibilities to Aria seemed never-ending. It was like drawing water with a knife, cutting off the water while still flowing. Speaking of having a moment to catch her breath, it was only on the way home. But today, a phone call shattered her only moment of tranquility. The teacher said she was coming for a home visit. Evelyn had long anticipated this day. During this period, she had been cleaning as if she was about to receive guests, leaving no corner untouched. But today, when she received the call, she still felt nervous. Fruits, flowers, tea sets, and Biluakun tea were all arranged in the living room before the teacher arrived. She changed into the most proper outfit and waited for the teacher. The last time she felt this nervous was on her wedding day. Time passed by second, and the teacher sent a message on WeChat, saying she was delayed on the way and would arrive a little later. This meant that her nervousness was stretched to an unknown length. Aria, with the innocence of youth, didn't understand why her mom suddenly became so meticulous about her appearance. Clean and tidy clothes, hair neatly tied, and even study materials had to be neatly arranged. After doing all this, Evelyn asked her to choose 2 books and sit quietly in a corner of the living room to read. The doorbell finally rang, and Evelyn hurriedly went to open the door. 2 teachers stood at the entrance, and she quickly welcomed them in, offering Aria to fetch a fresh pot of tea. No need, no need. The head teacher was a young female teacher, a bit shy. We do need it. Saying you don't need something when you actually do is a common courtesy she learned from her parents. Initially, they discussed some routine topics. Evelyn had intentionally found answers online and responded fluently. The vice head teacher was the Chinese teacher and admired the large bookcase in the living room. She asked Aria to show her the books. With Aria gone, the head teacher finally explained the purpose of their visit. A few days ago, 2 first-grade students from a neighboring city had disappeared after their parents dropped them off at the school gate. They were later found drowned in a river on their way home. The teacher's purpose in coming was to advance family-school collaboration and identify any psychological issues in the children at an early stage. If you sense anything wrong, please inform the school immediately. Okay. The home visit concluded, and Evelyn escorted them downstairs. Watching the bright moonlight shining on the earth, she felt a sense of desolation in her heart, for those 2 children and for the fate of those who had to strive. Returning home, she found that the 2 teachers hadn't drunk a single drop of water, let alone the tea and snacks. She heard that there were still 4 or 5 more families to visit in this neighborhood. Ah, the world of adults, where there is no easy path. Clara's temper came and went quickly. In just a few days, she happily invited Evelyn to her house for dinner. Evelyn mentioned that she was currently on a diet, and Clara teased her, saying she was acting like Marie Antoinette, wondering why someone weighing less than 50 kilograms would bother with a diet. Indeed, what's the point of dieting? Evelyn also found this reason amusing. However, during her gloomy days, she didn't want to see anyone. Evelyn once thought that midlife crisis was like a flood approaching a riverbank, with clear signs before it arrived. But when the day came, she realized that midlife crisis was a shock to life, a sudden collapse, with energy sharply reduced, and everything falling apart. This conclusion was reached after several days of continuous browsing of job recruitment websites. When looking for a job in her youth, HR would ask many questions, such as her university, her major, her proudest achievement, and projects she had been involved in. Now, HR had many different questions, like why she wanted to change jobs at such an age, how she balanced family and career, what she would choose if her child got sick conflicting with a project, whether she would have a second child, and so on. Evelyn had always believed that older single women devalued quickly in the marriage market, but she never thought that they would devalue even more in the workplace. Especially since the policy allowing a second child was introduced, women over 30 were seen as time bombs by HR, potentially powerful but not very useful. Painfully realizing this, Evelyn cast a somewhat softer gaze at Joseph. Since the layoffs had started, she wanted to be the fish that slipped through the net. On her last day at the workplace for post-90s generation employees, she bought coffee for everyone. Evelyn was lucky to receive an extra cup of complimentary red date tea. Sis, take care. Post-90s colleagues, always bringing up topics, but Evelyn truly envied their carefree attitude. The day finally came. It turned out the new director's arrival was not to reorganize the workplace but to cut it down ruthlessly. This office, apart from Luke, was where she had stayed the longest. It was said that when Luke learned about her impending dismissal, he had a confrontation with Joseph and secured her a compensation package. Director Luke. Haha, just call me Luke, more friendly. Evelyn blushed from her old face to the base of her neck, scolding herself for being petty. Clara told Evelyn that she had found a job as a store manager at a bookstore. Evelyn replied, I'm unemployed now. No one could predict how the gears of destiny would turn. At the age of 32, Evelyn and Clara's lives suddenly took a different turn. Evelyn now had a lot of time. To soothe her emotions, Dylan was cautious every day. Even Aria, who was usually spoiled, became more restrained, finding various ways to make her mom happy. Evelyn had mixed feelings. She was pleased that her daughter was growing up and becoming sensible, but she was troubled by the fact that the nicer people were to her, the more she felt like a useless person. Evelyn fell into a mental loop, becoming increasingly suspicious. It started with a feeling that Dylan had an extra strand of hair on him that didn't belong to a family member. Then there was a faint fragrance on him. Once suspicions began, she discovered more subtle clues. Clara advised her to go out more. Staying at home for too long could lead to unfounded thoughts. This advice sounded familiar, and Evelyn had once told Clara the same thing. If they hadn't known each other for so long, Evelyn might have thought Clara was mocking her. However, Evelyn wasn't as fortunate as Clara. The subtle traces on Dylan's body were connected, weaving into a solid green hat firmly placed on Evelyn's head. It's not Dylan, are you crazy? You enjoyed good days, and now you're fooling around outside. Clara vented her indignation on behalf of her friend. Not fooling around, we are in love. Love? Love is a human thing, what does it have to do with you two dogs? How come, back then, you leaned on my family for support, and now that you've grown wings, you become shameless? Clara scolded him harshly, and Evelyn cried for 3 days, physically weakened. Otherwise, she might have applauded Clara enthusiastically for her strong words. Hey, your words are not right. When I married Evelyn back then, I was sincere. Do you swear? I swear? What's wrong? Can't say it? Afraid of divine retribution striking you dead? Clara sneered, tearing apart the mask on Dylan's face and the cover-up on this marriage. Stop it. Evelyn stood between Clara and Dylan, saying, let's get a divorce. There was no trace of nostalgia in her voice. Evelyn thought Dylan would be happy, would feel relieved, but unexpectedly, he knelt down to her with a thud. We can't divorce. Why not? Am I a garbage bin, or are you playing tricks on me behind my back like a player, doing tricks like having a mistress for more excitement? Is that small peanut of yours only standing up in such situations? Evelyn sneered, shattering the last illusion of their marriage. Clara was dumbfounded. She's pregnant. Don't you also want a son? When the baby is born, we'll bring him home and raise him ourselves. Dylan spoke decisively, and Evelyn even thought she had misheard. However, every word was exceptionally clear. She never imagined that the man she shared a bed with would be so shameless. Do you want to hear what you're saying? Are you accustomed to living off others? Now you want your illegitimate child to enjoy the same privilege? Is my home some kind of big cafeteria? Dylan, today, before I didn't realize how shameless you are. You are like the wolf saved by Dongwa. A wolf with a wolf's heart and a dog's lungs. Evelyn's attitude made Dylan realize that there was absolutely no room for turning back in this matter. Suddenly standing up, he discarded the earlier gentleness, glared at Evelyn and Clara, eyes ablaze with green fire. Whether a wolf or a sheep, I've lived in this house for over 10 years. Even if we divorce, I should still have a share. Fooling us because there's no one in our family, huh? Clara delivered a flying kick to Dylan's waist. Unprepared, he crashed into the coffee table, and things scattered everywhere. You. Furious, but cowed by the earlier kick, Dylan dared not make any rash moves. Who are you calling you? Let me tell you, Lady here was part of the Taekwondo club in college. I suggest you roll out immediately, or I'll make you roll out. Under the gaze of Evelyn and Clara, Dylan hastily packed a few clothes and rolled out. As he left, he shouted back like most villains, I'll be back. If Evelyn hadn't held Clara back, she might have gone up and given him a couple more kicks. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, Evelyn returned to single life. At the age of 10, a fortune teller predicted that there would be a major change in her life around the age of 30. She had always thought it referred to the tragic accident involving her parents, but now it seemed that life was like a domino, knocking down one piece causing the whole set to fall. Worried about Evelyn's feelings, Clara insisted on accompanying her home. However, upon opening the door, they were greeted by a banner hanging in the living room, and Clara immediately screamed, "Ah? What is this?" The banner read, "Congratulations to Ms. Evelyn on getting divorced and returning to single life." How is it? Oh, you cunning Evelyn. You made me worry for nothing. Do you know how I've been getting through this period? I would burst into tears whenever I thought of the scene of your wedding, and I would cry thinking that Aria no longer has a father. If I had known you would be so carefree, I wouldn't have worried at all. Hey, calm down. Don't be angry. The wine has sobered up. Clara, please have a seat and let's have a few drinks. Humph, I'll forgive you. After all, you're my best friend. Well, the best friend, the bridesmaid at the wedding, and the bridesmaid at the divorce. That's having a complete story. Cheers. The two of them said in unison, toasting happily. When Evelyn got married, partly it was because she wanted to settle down, and mostly it was to fulfill her parents' expectations. Young Dylan was an honest and gentle man, emotionally stable, willing to tolerate her parents' occasional tantrums, and ready to marry into the family. In this marriage, Dylan had long completed the most important part of the equivalent exchange. Evelyn didn't lose out, so she was willing to cede a portion of her rights during the property division. With that money, Dylan could at least rent a house outside the Fifth Ring Road, and he could bother her less. Of course, one thing was for sure, Evelyn wouldn't compromise on child support. She took the maximum amount supported by the law, automatically deducted from Dylan's account at the beginning of each month, peeling off a layer of Dylan from skin to heart. Dylan, if you push me too hard, go cause a scene at your company. Think about it, with your qualifications, can you find such a good job again? These were Evelyn's threatening words when they were signing the divorce agreement, and surprisingly, losing her job became her protective umbrella in this divorce lawsuit. With everything settled, there were no wailing or various undignified scenes. Evelyn was quite satisfied, even a bit grateful for the arrangement of fate that allowed her to discover Dylan's affair after her parents' death. If they were still alive, Evelyn might have tried to maintain the facade of a seemingly intact marriage, turning a blind eye to their affair. She divorced without deliberately avoiding anyone. In this world, the people who truly cared about this matter were already gone, and the rest were mere spectators. Except for Aria. Evelyn couldn't help but care about her daughter's feelings. Divorce seemed to be handled hastily, without regrets, but Evelyn did hesitate for a second. This moment of hesitation was simple, perhaps it was an inherent obsession in Chinese people, wanting to give their children a complete family. Surprisingly, Aria seemed indifferent to the divorce of her parents. Her school life was on track, and she happily shared with Evelyn what she learned and ate every day, as well as the new friends she made. The chicken moms in the group still flooded it every day with good news. Someone won awards in city competitions, someone was selected by their dream school in advance, someone achieved new breakthroughs in their studies, and others shared their achievements in early morning question banks. The emotions of the mothers in the group remained stable, as if they were never angry. It seemed like destiny favored them, as the messages shared in the group were always good news. Aria has grown up, displaying the characteristics of a thoughtful and considerate person. Evelyn feels a sense of satisfaction, as if witnessing her little girl coming of age. With one person moving out, the home inexplicably feels empty. They both decide to get a cat. On the weekend, mother and daughter visit a cat shelter. In a corner, there's a domestic cat with grayish, slightly dirty fur, and long tear stains in its eyes. It's not small, but quite thin. Occasionally, it jumps up, revealing clear bone contours. Aria's emotions change as soon as she sees the cat. Her gaze becomes dim yet soft. "Mom, can we take it home?" Aria pleads. Evelyn hesitates a bit. The cat doesn't seem very healthy, and she prefers long-haired cats, which are more comfortable to hold. "Aria, should we take a look at other cats?" Evelyn suggests friendly, but Aria remains unmoved. Each with a cat, they silently lock eyes. Evelyn stands aside, blocked by the magnetic field formed between them. The cage is in the corner, where the afternoon sun doesn't reach. The cat glances at Aria for a while, then cautiously extends its claws. "Mom, look, it's scratching me." "Mom, let's take it home." "Mom, please, it doesn't have parents around, it looks so ugly. If no one wants it, it might get bullied by other cats." Tears fill Aria's eyes. Unable to hold back any longer, she turns around and hugs Evelyn, crying softly. Evelyn feels like she's been struck by lightning, suddenly understanding something. She pats her daughter's head, then points to the cat in the cage, telling the pet store employee, "How much is this cat?" "I'll take it." "Madam, this cat was rescued by us last night. It has cat moss on its body, ear mites, and we haven't had a chance to treat it yet. Are you sure you want it?" "Yes, I want it." In Aria's expectant gaze, Evelyn replies loudly. "Manager, there's a little girl here adopting Bella." The female employee looks very happy as she runs to report to the manager. "Bella? That's a nice name." Evelyn and Aria exchange a glance, seeing anticipation in each other's eyes. Soon, the employee comes back with a bag of cat food and canned cat food, followed by a chubby man carrying a cat bag and a cat litter box in his arms. Evelyn raises her eyebrows. Is this an attempt at a hard sell? Little did she know, the chubby man is the owner. He looks at Evelyn and her daughter with eager eyes. The owner says he has been selling cats for many years and rarely sees someone willing to take such a dirty little thing home. He is grateful, and the cat is free. Cat food is free. Cat litter box and cat carrier are all free. Finally, the owner adds Evelyn on WeChat, promising that when the cat's moss and ear mites are cured, she can come and pick it up. Before leaving, Aria has already bonded with Bella. The two of them work together seamlessly, making the cat toy jingle. A paper is attached to the cage, saying, "Bella has been adopted." The owner personally sees them off to the car, holding the pile of freebies in his arms. "Boss, aren't you afraid I'll run away?" Evelyn teases. "You dare, your Bella is still in my hands." The owner makes a fierce expression. "That's right, rest assured, boss, we won't run away." Aria's words make the three of them burst into laughter. Evelyn looked at her sleeping daughter, lost in thought. She thought Aria understood her statement about, those who make mistakes must pay the price, but she hadn't considered it from the perspective of family bonds. In Evelyn's eyes, Dylan had committed a grave mistake that couldn't be forgiven, but in Aria's heart, he was the father who read books, exercised, and secretly played games with her every day, a companion. From childhood to adulthood, he had been a significant presence in Aria's life. Evelyn, in her unilateral decision, severed their connection. In the quiet of the night, amidst chaotic thoughts, Evelyn decided not to dwell on this marriage anymore. In her value system, the right person never needed repentance. Forgiveness is a grand and difficult topic, one she wasn't prepared to delve into. However, her love was vast, and for Aria's sake, she was willing to initiate contact with Dylan. In a coffee shop, the two sat face to face. The last time they were in such a setting was a year ago when Aria went to her grandmother's house for the summer, giving them a chance for a secret date amidst their busy lives. Upon careful consideration, it had been 2 years. Dylan had lost weight, his beard was unkempt, hair longer, and sideburns messy. "Haven't you noticed you have naturally curly hair?" Evelyn mocked his scruffy appearance. Dylan seemed indifferent, chuckled, and said, "You want me to comb my hair every month? How would I know what it looks like when it grows out?" Evelyn felt that Dylan had changed a lot. He was no longer the man who came and went at his whim in their marriage. After stepping out of the confines of matrimony, he seemed much more carefree. Okay, let's get to the point. Aria, she really misses you. Upon hearing Aria's name, Dylan's expression changed, shifting to a serious demeanor. Serious silence. After a long while, Dylan spoke slowly. I let her down. Evelyn, you have to believe me, I didn't stop loving her. But I don't know how to face her. You are her father, the first man she met in this world. If you can't teach loyalty to a partner, at least let her know how to make amends when you make a mistake. Evelyn didn't want to witness his insincere performance. Tears of a crocodile are never shed out of pity. She turned and walked out of the coffee shop. A cool breeze swept by. It was deep into autumn. With Evelyn's support, Aria had gone out with Dylan twice. Once to the museum and once to the amusement park at the Youth Palace, both chosen by Aria. Every time they returned, Aria seemed a bit sad. Aria's sadness made Evelyn feel the same. After the second outing, just coming back, Aria hugged her mother, her little head resting in her arms. She had sweated, and her hair had a scent of a damp bird. I'll take a shower later, Evelyn told her. No, I want to cuddle a bit more, Aria said, acting spoiled. All right. With her daughter by her side, Evelyn felt at ease. Mom, if I go out with Dad, will you be angry? Why would I be? He will always be your dad. But I don't want to go out with him anymore. Why? Because I want to be with you. He has other family members, his mom and dad, and an aunt. But you only have me. Aria's words brought tears to Evelyn's eyes. Her daughter, with a delicate and tender heart, at such a young age, couldn't understand why her parents had separated, yet was already thinking of mending her mother's broken heart. Sweetie, the divorce is between Mom and Dad. It's the adults' matter. Mom hopes you'll consider yourself more. If you want to see Dad, go to him. If you're not happy, come back. Understand? Yes, I understand. After a while, Aria nestled into Evelyn's arms and murmured in a half-dreaming state, Mom, I love you. I love you too. In just under 3 years, Evelyn lost her parents, and her marriage reached its end. Surprisingly, there was only this little person accompanying her. Oh no, there's also Bella. Just now, Evelyn received a message from the pet store owner, saying that Bella's health had recovered, and she could pick her up on an auspicious day. Millennia pass, from light to dark, ticking away every second. We never know who comes first, unexpected events or tomorrow. When Aria wakes up tomorrow morning, they will go and pick up Bella. In Evelyn's heart, as long as life continues, every day is an auspicious day.